first of all, everybody who's joined us from as far as Buenos Aires, North Carolina, or right here in Dubai or Doha or Oman, welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. I want to just set some kind of housekeeping rules. So as you can see, you're all in mute. If you wanted to ask questions, can you just put them in the chat and then we'll kind of collate them? I think I'd love for RC to kind of have a flow and so he can kind of impart his wonderful knowledge to us. And I think right now, I was doing an Instagram live earlier with Tasneem and I said, nobody has an excuse to come out of this without a new website or without having all their images organized, so that we can be raring to go once we're out of here, once we're out of quarantine. So I'm really excited. And before RC, I introduce you, can you tell us what lighting setup you have? Because that glamour beauty lighting is, I'm so jealous.
Actually, you know what? The lighting setup is actually very simple. I'm going with this setup from a company called IKEA. I think it's IKEA. Like it's literally like a normal setup. I think what does it for me is actually more it's a diffuse light, which I think like it's angled, right? So you want to be able to come at one side. Here, I'm going to try to do this right now. I'm going to break the internet. Because I did this before and it worked. Let's just see if it works with 70 some odd people. Here, let's do this. We'll do a mirror. This is usually like the spot where all of a sudden Mo's like, I know that we like having him live, but when he goes off the reservation, I don't know what he's doing.
No, this is great. This is an extra bonus tutorial on how to make
my little miniature Kung Fu dummy. So oddly enough, see, like, the Filmic is the only app that you can use that does horizontal mode for this kind of share, right? So you got some lenses. That right there is kind of a spray bottle in case my hair gets messed up. Right? Those are random gifts from my daughter, right? There's the coffee because you know you need the coffee. But here's the setup, right? So the camera, the main camera that I'm using right now, ooh, somebody do a screenshot of that so that I can send that. But that right there, I did it myself, sorry. That right there is the XT200, which I think is pretty cool. I wanted to get a really tiny camera. I hate when you're doing any kind of webcast setups where you're looking up at somebody's nose. So I just have a regular microphone, just a regular $13 microphone stand. I bought an $11 iPhone, basically small tripod, and then there's like a connector that's like a 5/8 connector to 1/4 inch. But really the driving thing is this, right? It's the camera at a shallow depth of field, and then this is the light, right? The important part about the light is diffused, soft, so that it could hit you in one section. And then from there, the background is just, notice that at the top, I have those little things that are in the corners right there. That's actually black cinefoil. That's created, that's set up there so that it can basically diffuse the light off that one area. And it's not necessarily like, there's a spot right here. And what I did is I just blocked it so that it doesn't hit this and it doesn't wash this out. And same thing here. So by directing the light, it creates a little bit more of a texture pattern, which makes it a lot more favorable. But I like the eye level too on the webcam. That's the good thing with the microphone, because a lot of the times you don't want to look under the fat.
Right.
So, anyway, I don't want to turn this into a giant production class. We can do that another time.
No, but that was really useful. Thank you. That's great. So look, many of you know RC. RC's come to Dubai many times. We've been blessed to have him. He's always kind of the one who keeps us awake till 3 in the morning with his stories and his jokes, and we miss him desperately. And when we have photo week back, and if Syracuse University will let him, we would love to have him back. I think we'd love to see all of the guys back and all of you guys who are part of the GPT community. And so look, all of you have used Adobe products at any one point, and, RC has had inputs into their development. So I think we're very lucky to have him join us tonight and kind of share his expertise. He's an award-winning photographer, a podcast host, used to be on TV a lot, an educator, an author of many books, 9 of which are like on the top 100 Amazon best-selling books on photography. He's currently an adjunct professor at the Newhouse School at Syracuse, and is a digital post-production specialist. He works together with Greg Heisler, and the Syracuse University students are lucky to have them both. RC has been involved in, the development of many of the Adobe products, from Lightroom to Photoshop to Illustrator, and he's worked with them to, produce the official training book. So if anybody knows Adobe stuff inside out, it's RC. So we invited him tonight to join us to basically tell us. We're all photographers at varying levels. Some of us are working pros. Some of us are, do this very seriously as a hobby, and some of us are starting out. And we all have photographs that we've taken during our summer holiday, or when we went out for a walk on Friday morning, or the weekend, or Sunday in other parts of the world. And we kind of have them scattered all over the place. Me personally, I have like 9 hard drives that I need to kind of organize at one point. So this was really like a selfish suggestion from me, the GPP team, saying, hey, let's get RC on so he can help everybody and me to get myself organized. So I really want to be able to know how to better organize my images, how to come out of this pandemic at least a little bit better prepared. And the other thing I'd love to know is how to back up my images to the cloud. What services are there? What can we use? And so I'm gonna get in the background, switch off my video so I can have my coffee and let RC drive. And RC, over to you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much for the warm introduction. I'm really excited to be here with you guys. It's pretty cool. It's a little different, right? Like, we're having to do all of this stuff kind of remotely, but I think it's pretty neat. Now, I will just say from a housekeeping thing, if you have a question, by all means, just make sure that you put it into the chat. What I would like to make it easier for everybody, should you be able to do it, I'm going to do it in the chat right now, right? I would just type in, what color is my hair, right? So this is how I would do it. I would put in your questions in all caps, and then just say question, and then say what the question is. It makes it a lot easier. Like, if you need to be able to find whatever it is that we're doing, as we're scanning it, we can just kind of go up and down and just go, oh, all right, well, that makes sense. But what I want to talk about here is the entire concept of how to be able to back up and prepare your work. So we're not going to be dealing a lot with the entire development of stuff, even though the development I think is really cool. Probably one of the biggest problems that I think that you have in Lightroom is that a lot of the times people talk about Lightroom from oh, look, you could do all of these cool things. You could develop this, you could develop that, you could develop this. My heat down here. So one of the things you'll also notice is that I have horrific ADD, right? Like, I'm surprised I'm still here. I need like horse blinders like this. But what happens is, a lot of the times when people start talking about Lightroom, everybody talks about it from a jiggle the slider, jiggle the slider, jiggle the slider. And they're like, oh, this is like the strongest part about Lightroom. But what'll happen is people are like, oh, cool. And you just start throwing cards in and throwing cards in and throwing cards in. And then 6 months later or 7 months later, you're like, I don't understand what this file not found thing is. The file can't be found. I don't understand like where my picture, like my hard drive is full. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I fix it? And nobody talks about the organization thing. Nobody talks about how to be able to kind of set yourself up so that you're successful with organizing all of these pictures. And it's the most unsexiest part of working with Lightroom, but truthfully, it's probably the part about Lightroom that you spend the most time doing, right? I always equate it to like fishing, right? Like, if you're a fisherman and you're fishing, you spend a lot of time going out to fish. Very rarely do you catch the fish, and very rarely is that fish the fish that you wanted. So when we go out and we take pictures, it's not like I turn around and I grab my camera and I'm like, 300 shots, perfect, print. Like, you don't do that. What you do is you go, 300 shots, maybe one's good, maybe 2 are good, right? Like, maybe none's good, but you have to store that and you have to organize. So you actually spend more time storing and organizing and labeling and moving stuff around than you actually do taking care of pictures. So it's important for you to be able to have some form of consistency when you're doing that. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, right? So it's gonna be super simple, very, very slow, talking about how I use a scenario that kind of goes from a hot to medium to cold. And one of the things that I usually tell everybody whenever I have this conversation is a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about now is based on workflow. It's predicated on workflow. And workflow is a lot like pasta sauce, right? So what will happen is my pasta sauce, my Italian pasta sauce is the best in the world. Everybody else's pasta sauce sucks, right? The dish you make is the best ever. So as I'm talking to you about all of these different types of things, understand that workflow is very different for very different people, and everybody's workflow is the best. Everybody else's sucks. So your miles may vary. You have to find what of this workflow works. Like you could go talk to a Mac Laskowski, you could go talk to a Peter Lick, you could talk to all these people, and I'm like, oh my God, are you listening to RC Concepcion? Yeah, I wouldn't listen to that. Pasta sauce. Workflows are very, very different. The only difference between theirs and mine is that I'm right. So to that, I want to walk you through the process as to how I do it, right? And before I do that, I kind of want to nerd show off here. So let's see, I'll start moving around different desktops, and if we run into a problem, I'll rely on Roz to just tell me that it's not working. I'm just gonna jiggle some stuff over here, move this over here, get this all set up. Now, I'm assuming everybody can see my desktop still, so let's go from there. So if there's any questions or anything that needs to be interrupted, Roz, somebody please jump in and just interrupt me here. Now, from here, what I wanna do is I want to be able to show you my Lightroom catalog, right? So I'm gonna go over here. Notice that this Lightroom catalog right now is set to 0 pictures, right? This is not my real catalog. This is a fake catalog. This is the one that I'm just using to show you to test. So if I were to open up my real catalog, that's this guy. I'm gonna talk about him in a second. I wish I could see the chat so I don't feel so alone. I don't want to deal with that right now and mess anything up. So anyway, so here's some random.
I'll dial in with what people are saying in the chat.
Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. Yeah, because it just made me feel a little weird.
Oh no, there's 77 people watching you.
Okay, so take a look at this picture. So take a look at this right here. 358,827 pictures. That's a lot of pictures in one catalog. I would probably venture to say that 27 of those pictures are actually good, right? 358,800 are probably the ones that suck. But I need to be able to find some sort of organization for that. That's a lot of pictures. However, let me just do a full nerd out here. If I were to go to my hard drive, take a look at my hard drive. My hard drive is 1.22 terabytes available. So I have a 2 terabyte hard drive on this computer. It's got almost 1.2. That's a lot. And I have huge video productions that are sitting inside of this hard drive. So I probably have 500 gigs of space open on used up and 1.5 terabytes on my computer. However, I have 358,000 pictures that are available. How do you do that, right? And that has everything to do with having a good workflow organization structure. And basically, when we start from the very, very beginning, you have to think about it this way. If I were to ask you, right, to show me the pictures that you did last week when you were on vacation, right, you could show me those pretty quickly. Like you'd probably be going through those pictures immediately because you just took them last week, right? But what about the pictures that you had last month? Well, chances are the pictures that you did last month, you would not look at as much as the pictures that you did last week. When was the last time that you took a look at pictures of that one photo shoot that you did 5 years ago, right? Probably very infrequent. So the first tenet that you need to be able to understand before you start anything else is that your ability to be able to access these photos degrades over time, right? As you shoot, they feel immediate to you and you're constantly working on them, but then as it goes over time, you use them less and less and less. But what happens is we tend to just want to carry around all of our hard drives and we're like, where are all the pictures? They're right here. When was the last time you accessed this one? You're like, I don't know. But you have them just in case, right? There's that FOMO. So what we want to do here is we want to get you to a process that I tend to call kind of like a hot, a medium, and a cold process. Hot pictures are pictures that I'm constantly looking at. Medium pictures are pictures that I'm looking at sometimes. And then cold pictures are pictures that I'm looking at not that often, but I still have them. So everybody okay with that concept so far? It's like you can go into the chat and go, I follow, I understand, this sounds great, and then we can go from there. Now, from here, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open up my new catalog and I'll start sharing my screen in a second. I just wanted to talk to you about that entire thing, right? That entire concept of how we work with most of this stuff. Now, right off the bat, we'll start with a card, right? So we have a memory card, right? That memory card's got some pictures. They're not great pictures. It's great from the camera because I did it with the mirrorless, but they're not very good pictures. And I don't want to focus so much on the pictures because it has nothing to do with my pictures. It has to do with your pictures and how to organize it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in so that we can see what it looks like during the import. Now, as I import that, what I'm going to do is I'll switch into the screen and I'll show you what this looks like so far. Everybody can see that okay? I hope. Now, inside of here, what I want to do is I want to be able to start working on the importing of these pictures. Now, notice that I imported this card and it shows me no photos found. So I'm going to select right here, include subfolders. Now, inside of the include subfolders, now you can see all of the different pictures that I took for this one session. So they're going to go from here over into here somewhere. And by default, you have it set up so that it goes into the pictures directory. For me, what I tend to do is I tend to grab this and I switch this over into the desktop. Always save my stuff in the desktop first. Once I do that, under file handling, you'll notice that there's a section there that's called build previews minimal, and it goes minimal, embedded, standard, or one-to-one. For the most part, what I'll do here is I'll set it towards minimal, but there's a difference between minimal and standard and one-to-one. Let me just stop there real quick and just talk to you about it. So in minimal is basically when you're in grid mode and you see all of the little tiny pictures, basically Lightroom has generated a small preview or a small thumbnail called minimal. If you ever double click on a picture, you'll notice that in Lightroom it goes rendering, 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 and then like another picture comes up and that picture is bigger than the other one, right? If you double click on the picture, it renders when rendering, and then boom, it pops another picture. That's a standard. If you try to zoom into the picture, you'll see that it goes rendering, 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 and then 10 years later, it'll open up and it'll show you another picture. That picture that it does when you zoom in is a one-to-one. So minimal is when it's a grid. When you double click, it renders a standard. When you zoom in, it does a one-to-one. That's important as you're working through stuff. Like if I were a wedding photographer, chances are what I would want to do is I'd want to be able to set myself up to one-to-one because I don't want to wait. I would rather import, leave it aside, go get a sandwich, and have it generate those one-to-one previews so that I could go next to it and check critical focus, go next and next and next, and it'll be faster, not having to go from minimal to one-to-one. If I'm just trying to import, then what I would do is I probably would just set it to minimal. So it's a small drop down, but it's a big difference depending on the workflow that you're doing. So wanted to make sure that we explain that. Let's go back into it. Inside of here, then the next thing that I would do is I would grab this, and I want to be able to, I'm not going to do a build smart preview. We don't need a smart preview right now. We can talk about that. We're not going to talk about it right now. There's also a second section there that says build a second copy too, right? I also leave that off, right? And I'll talk about that in a second as well. This next section here is the one that I would tend to use. So for me, I like using file renaming. And in the file renaming, I set up a custom template for whatever it is that I want to do. Right off the bat, I usually like using the date of the picture and a sequence of the picture. Right? I think date of the picture, sequence of the picture is something that's really cool. Now, what will happen here is a lot of the times when you're working with your pictures, sometimes what you'll see is you'll see that it turns around and it'll create a -1, -2, -3, -4. I don't like having just a -1 because what happens is sometimes when you're trying to serialize or organize your pictures, what'll happen is, let's say you have 30 pictures. What'll happen sometimes is you'll see -1, -10, -11, -12, until it gets to 19, then you'll see -2, -20, -21, -22. That's because it doesn't know how to treat single and double digits. So more often than not, I think it's a much better way for you to have -1 be -001 or 0001. That solves a lot of those problems, but a lot of people don't do that because they're like, I don't know how. I'm going to show you how. So inside of here, under the template, there's this custom name sequence, right? If I leave it at -1, see, it does the -1 right there. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit down here at the bottom. And now I can put in whatever it is that I want here. So I can just delete this. And I can say, well, all right, well, there's the date. There's month, day, year, year, month, day, whichever one I want. I'm just going to do year, month, day. Then I'm going to do a dash. And now, which one do I want with a sequence or a number, right? Sequence number 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. I'm going to do this one. So now every time that it labels the pictures, it's going to do the date and the sequence, which I think is pretty cool, right? I tend to get particularly anal about this kind of stuff. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll come inside of here and then I'll put in an actual custom text, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But right now, this looks like it's a pretty good format. Once I have that set, I'm going to go ahead and click on done. Or I can come over here and then save these as a new preset. And let's just say that I call this GPP preset. Now, when I click on done, when I need that, I just go to the GPP preset right here, puts the date, the date's unique, and unless I shoot 10,000 pictures, I'm not going to run into a problem. So that's fine. Now, I'm importing from here, it's grabbing it into the desktop, it's renaming it with this one individual preset. From inside of here, the next thing that I usually do is I add metadata, right? And metadata is one of those things that everybody hates to do because they have to do it to 10,000 of them, right? Like if you don't set it up right from the very beginning, what'll happen is it's screwed, and you need to be able to have better ways to do this. So I always tell people, put it in at the very, very beginning. At bare minimum, you should put in your contact information, right? Who shot the picture? How do they get a hold of you? In the event that you put it online somewhere and they're like, oh my God, the picture's amazing. I want to be able to use it. You want people to contact you to do that. So what I want to do in there is I want to create a metadata preset that has some of this stuff. Let's jump back in. So inside of here, under the metadata preset, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to edit presets. And inside of here, I'll set up a series of different things that I need. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up copyright. And I'm going to set up a copyright status. Now, I don't want to proclaim to know what Middle Eastern copyright laws or different copyright laws. I just usually do this from a US-based research. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, research your copyright situations there. But the right usage terms, a lot of the times I usually write all rights reserved, email rc@aboutrc.com for licensing info. There's a difference between selling your picture and licensing your picture, right? Selling your picture, you never get it back. Licensing your picture, you could always renew the license, at least in the US. And then I put in my email address, about RC. Now, who is a creator? Well, that would be me. I do not put in anything else, and for the love of God, do not put in your phone number. Not a good thing. The last thing that you want is somebody contacting you at 2 o'clock in the morning being like, I found your picture on the internet, and don't. Just forget about that. All right, so just rc@aboutrc.com, and here's the website. That's it. Once I have that set, you don't really need anything else for right now. I'm just going to save this as a new preset, and I'm going to call this copyright info 2020. Click on create, click on done. Now that's done here. Now, should you have any keywords, right? A lot of the times I tell people from a keyword section, it's a good idea for you to go in and keyword your pictures with the most general thing possible. And then later, go back in and start doing individual stuff, right? So in this series, I know that it happened in Syracuse. So I would probably just keyword Syracuse. And then later, I'll be like, this was breakfast. This was the cereal box. This was this, if you need it. Now, for that, let's go ahead and go back in here. And what I'm going to do is jump back in and I'm just going to type in the word Syracuse. Now, into subfolder. We are saving all of this stuff in the desktop. I want to put this into a specific subfolder. So for me, I would make a subfolder of that specific date. So I'm going back now and I'm redoing a lot of my stuff so that it's focused on a specific date now. I think it's a little bit better to be able to do it that way. So for me, I'm just going to type in 2020 and then 04/14, right? If you want to put in some descriptive information about you or about the individual event, you could do that as well, but that's normally what I would do from there. Now, once I do that, I hit the enter key and I'm going to organize everything into one subfolder. So that's the setup so far, right? No smart previews, no second copies. There's the renaming of the file. It's going into the desktop. It's going into this one subfolder in the desktop. And then what I'll do from here is I'm just going to import. We'll let that import from there. And I can just go back and take a look at some of the questions here. Let's see if there's anything that I could knock out. You rename the photos that you have already been imported into Live. Can you rename the photos? That's a great question. Anna, can you rename the photos? Yes. If you are in the library section, right, you have the option to rename pictures if you need it. Right? If I come over here, I can single click on this one, shift click on a series of pictures, and under library, there is a renaming option. I'm trying to look around my camera here. There's an option here called rename photos. And then from there, you have all of the different presets that you had before. So you do have the option to do that. Now, the next thing that I want to do from here is I want to be able to take all of this stuff and I want all of this stuff to kind of make sense from an organizational standpoint. So for me, the one thing that I want to do is I want to be able to take this and I want to be able to separate the good from the bad as quickly as possible so that I can just see exactly what I need to see. And there's a section here where I have to just organize myself using collections and collection sets. And I can do a video for you guys that explains this. I have a separate video that talks a little bit about this, but the best way to be able to think about this is that I want to organize myself in such a manner where I have all of this organization standardized from the very beginning. So the first thing that I do here is I'll take a look at these pictures, I'll take a look at this stuff and I'll go, all right, well, I'm going to double click on a picture and go, is this good? Is this bad? Move on. Is this good? Is this bad? Move on. And a lot of the times I tell people, if you don't do this right from the very beginning, what will happen is sometimes you just get yourself in such a fluster with working on the shoot that you don't necessarily know what's good or what's bad from the very beginning. So I'm going to give you a quick way for you to do this. I'm going to go back into my setup here. Now, as I'm looking at these pictures, a lot of the times I tend to just do a shift tab to get rid of the entire interface, and then I'll dim it, but I don't think dimming works very well with the zoom thing, so I'm just going to leave it here. I use the letter X, the letter P, and then the left and right arrow. Right off the bat, before I do anything else, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for pictures that I know are not good, or I'm looking for pictures that are good, right? I tend to call this an iterative cull. A lot of the times that helps me kind of organize myself, and I'm going to just take this here real quick and just talk to you about this. So imagine if we were taking a multiple choice test, right? If you had a question and it said, well, you know, how big is this thing? It's A or B or C. A lot of the times, if you don't know what it is, it's always a good idea to skip it, because you can get yourself into a position where you could answer enough questions on the test to get it right. One thing that can be good. Or you can turn around and you can come back and get context from later questions to help you answer the question that you didn't know in the beginning. So context can help you inform questions that you don't know, and maybe you can get enough to pass the test. It's the same concept when you're working with this iterative culling, what I tend to call iterative culling. I spend a fraction of a second inside of here going, is it good or is it bad? I'm not saying, is it the best? I'm saying, is it out of focus? Is it messed up? Is it part of the call or not? I spent half a second. So this, nope, hit the letter X. And what I want to do is I want to move across these pictures here. So I'm going to make sure that I go to photo and I set auto advance. So now X moves me to the next picture. Oh, yeah, that's a P. X, if I have to think about it for a half a second, I'm going to hit the right arrow. X, X, P, right arrow, definitely an X. I'm silently correcting your grammar. P, no, that's an X. No, that's a P. Right arrow, P, P, oh, Cheerios. A P, I don't know, it's an X. That's an X. That's an X. I don't know what I was doing. That's an X. That's an X. That's a P, P, X. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to skip it. That's an X, X, P. So I spend most of my time. Oh, that's definitely messed up, messed up, messed up, messed up. I don't know what we're doing here. We're doing Inception. No, that's not good. That's not good. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. And then we're done. Now, once I do that, I'm going to bring my thumbnails inside of here. Notice that there's a series of pictures that have been picked. There's a series of pictures that have been rejected. And then there's a series of pictures that have been skipped. Well, what I can do now is inside of here, I'm going to shift tab to bring this back up. And I have the option to be able to see specific things. If I go under attribute, I can click right here under the flag. Those are all the picked pictures, 10 out of 41. Turn that off. These are the rejected pictures, 26 out of 41. Turn that off. So if the client wanted 20 pictures or wanted 10 pictures and I got 10 pictures here, I'm done. Export, send it, get the check. However, if I need more, I know for a fact that those rejected pictures are no good. So I'm not going to go back into them. The pictures that I want to review now for a second pass are these unflagged pictures. By checking just the unflagged, I can start the whole process again and say to myself, do I like this picture or not? The good part about this is that I have context, right? I saw the entire take. You know what? I saw a better picture of this, right? So I know that's an X. I saw a better picture of that. You know what? I know that's an X. I didn't see a really good picture of this, so that is a P. I definitely got one in the past. That was an X. I got better of those. And the goal is to get back to no photos selected. Hit the letter G, brings me back to the grid mode. Shift tab brings it back up. And the reason that there's no photos is because I have this flag selected of unflagged. So now my picked, 11 out of 41. My rejected, 30 out of 41. That looks pretty good. Now, I will tell you this. This is a lot like drinking from a fire hose. Like, I'm explaining a super big concept in a really, really condensed amount of time. There are places that I can point you to get you more information, right? Like there's the book that I just wrote. There's some YouTube tutorials that I can send you that are going to make it easier for you, right? But just understand the 35,000 foot level of what it is that we're doing here. And if we need to give you more resources, we can dive in and get you most of that stuff. I just want to explain the overarching thing. But a lot of the times what happens with people is people are like, oh my God, it took me forever to be able to work on my pictures. And really what happened was the hardest part about working on your pictures was this part, right? And because what happens is you look at one picture and you're like, oh, look at this picture. Everybody does this. I think it's so funny, right? Everybody looks at this picture and they're like, oh, well, if I could just take that picture and I could make that just a little brighter or a little darker, maybe a little bit of clarity, or if I decrease this, or if I do this, and you spend 20 minutes trying to work on that picture, only to get to the next one and be like, oh, that was the picture. Or you do the eye test. You're like, oh, is it this one or this one? This one or this one? This one or, and that's the part that takes you 10 hours working, right? The biggest problem that you have is that. So getting yourself disciplined for this part is the part that's the most important part, right? Like, I don't even like touching the keyboard. Like, I use this entire system called Palette. I went out and bought it. It's expensive as all get out, but it's really cool because you can connect a brain, and these are all like removable block components. So you can connect this to the machine, and then you turn around and you just go click. That's one button for pick. That's one button for rejected. And grab one of these blocks and just put it over here. And now that's my previous and next. And then when I'm doing that stuff, I go in and I'm just like pick, reject, and scroll, pick, reject, and scroll. I don't want to deal with anything else other than that one individual thing. Let's get a little focus right here.
So RC, I have, I'm going to abuse my privilege of having a mic and that I'm not muted. So I've been using the star approach. So I love this. This is a keeper 5. This one, I'm not so sure. Maybe the client will ask for an outtake. I'm going to make it a 3. And then ones that are really bad, I reject. And a couple of people have asked the same question. Why is the pick versus reject and then the neutral one's a better strategy?
Because of the fact that you have more, there's no good or bad for that. If you're using it for isolating one thing versus another thing, anything that you're doing to be able to separate those two at the very beginning is a good thing. However, the problem with it is, I feel like if you're using a star, you're using a feature that has 5 different options for something that really is very binary. It either is or isn't in that one scenario. Like right now, you're trying to get rid of, did the whole thing, did I shoot the picture of the floor when I was taking the camera out of the boot and putting it on? That's not really a 5 or a 4. That is a is or isn't. And since Lightroom has a mechanism for is or isn't, the flags, I think it's a much better option to use. I tend to use the 5s and the 4s and things like that for quality progression or for a specific workflow. Like 5 is going to the client, 4 is going to a book, 3 is going to a website. You could use colors for that as well. Like 6 is images that need to be edited. Green is images that have already been edited. So because all of those other options have more options to them, I think it's better for you to use those as those options, right? Flags being yes, no, is pretty easy to be able to have it be a yes, no option inside of that.
Thank you.
So that's one way for me to be able to set myself up. Now, what'll happen here is from here, and I have this entire thing about collections and collection sets. I could talk to you guys for an hour just on collections and collection sets, and everybody should use it. But for the purposes of just talking about archiving, let me just explain kind of how I do it. So inside of here, what I'll do is I'll go into my computer, and almost everything that I set up, I get a collection set for an event. So in this instance, I call this, let's just call this Tuesday morning serial shoot. All right. And then I have a collection set here called Tuesday morning serial shoot. Then inside of that, I almost always create one called all images. And I put that inside of here, make another collection called picked images. I make another one called rejected images. And then I make another one in here called to client or to print or final pictures. Right? So that would be my setup. Now, one of the things, let me just remove, I did all of these inside of that. That's not what I wanted. No, it is what I wanted to do. That totally is what I wanted to do. I'm just gonna ad lib here real quick. Hopefully you guys have a little bit more time because I want to show you something. So I'm going to paste this picture. Can everybody still see this picture okay here? Right. I'm hoping, Mo, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So imagine if this was a cool picture that I liked for a morning. I don't know why I would like it, but let's just say that I like it, right? And I wanted to keep it. I would make a folder called Cool Pics to Keep, right? And then I would take that picture and I would put it inside of there. Copy it. I'm gonna come inside of here, and I'm just gonna paste it. Now, imagine if all of a sudden I really like this picture because it's a cool family picture. I'd have to come over here and make a picture called Family Pictures, right? And then I would put a copy of that picture there. Then from there, but it's a really cool picture of Sabine, my daughter, right? So you know what? I'm gonna make a folder here called Sabine Pictures. And I'm gonna grab that and I'm gonna paste that picture there. So now I have the picture here, I have the picture in the family's picture, and I have the picture in the cool pictures to keep. The problem with this is that this picture and this picture and this picture are the same pictures, and that's 7, 14, 21. So now you're 3 times the size that it normally has to, just because I wanted to be able to organize these pictures that I wanted. Right? What's even worse is if you have 15 folders that you're using for organization here, and you change this picture, you'd have to remember that you have this one, and you'd have to remember that you have this one in order to be able to go find it and change it. So this is a terrible way to be able to organize yourself. Folders store stuff. They don't organize stuff. It's not a good thing. However, inside of here, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to remove this from collection. I'm going to remove this from collection. I'm going to remove this from collection. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to remove this from collection. Now, oh, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put them all back. Let's just say that I have a series of collections, and in each of these, I took this picture that was here, and I put it here, and here, and here, and here. All of those pictures are still referring to one picture inside of your library. So think of it as almost kind of like a playlist for pictures, right? You can see all of that stuff here. Now, if I go into this one picture and I go to the develop module and I go, man, it is killing me that that thing is the color that it is. And I come over here and I change it. Now, all of those changes are reflected here in this one section. They're also reflected here in this one. They're reflected here and here and here. So it's made all of those changes in one spot, and at the same time, it's one size. So collections, we could have an entire conversation just on collections, but I think that it's super important that you understand how those things work. Now, from a workflow point of view, I have pictures that are rejected. I'm going to come over here under the attribute, and I'm going to select rejected, select those, bring those into my rejected pictures. Come over here, bring my pick pictures. I'm going to bring those into the pick pictures. I'm going to take all of these pictures, picked and rejected, and put them into the all pictures. The reason that I like doing the all pictures is because this previous import right now is set so that you're looking at this, the last previous import that you inserted into the camera, right? The next time that you import another set of images, this previous import is going to be different. There's going to be another thing. So you're never going to get one spot where you could just see everything unless you plan for it. That makes it a lot easier. Those are all the pictures. These are the pictures that I picked. These are the pictures that are rejected. Every now and again, I'll get myself to a spot where I'll look at these pictures and I go, oh, I wonder if that's trailing. Nah, that's a bunch of garbage. But all of it is sorted out here. Now, everybody okay with that part so far?
Yep.
Cool. Now, these are the pictures that we have set up. And let's just say that I go to my pick pictures and the pictures that I found. That was, let's see here. Come over here. Go to this, and let's just say that this was my final picture, and this was my final picture, and this was my final picture, and I got it all set up like that. There they are. Everything is nice and organized. The job's done. Now that we've done that, I want to show you something that's a little different. Right now, I need to be able to take all of that, and I want to be able to move it. This is in the hot section. So I'm going to stop this. Right now, what we want to do is we want to be able to move these things onto a removable hard drive. Now, I talked about this before. I said that I want to be able to back up these pictures. So I need to be able to cull and get rid of and change different things. And then once I'm done, I have my time machine or Windows file history backing up the computer. So that is creating a second backup. Now, I have a machine or a box that's dedicated for the backups, the time machine backups of the machine. So in that has multiple versions of the copies of the images that I'm working on. Now, another question would be, well, why do you not delete the rejected pictures? I just saw that come up in the chat. It all depends on workflow, right? If I shoot for a client and the client asks me to keep those pictures, then I obviously bill the client extra for keeping those pictures because it's going to cost me some money to be able to do some storage. So that's why I don't delete them. Sometimes I don't delete them because I'm a pack rat and I like to keep everything. So in a perfect world, if it's completely garbage, I want to delete them, but there are times where I found myself going back into the rejected. From a artistic thinking point of view, sometimes I think it's a good idea for you to be able to see all of your pictures and see the rejecteds to the picked so that you can kind of see the process by which you went from I wasn't really working on the shot, and you can kind of see the progression to getting to the shot. And I think that the process of seeing that stuff is something that's really cool. It's something that I just started looking at recently. Right? There's a guy that I work with here named Mike Davis, who was a photo editor for the White House, and he was the one that was just like, if you look at your rejected and your picks, you can actually see the evolution into the pick picture, which I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But anyway, so we're done, right? So that part's done. The pictures are on the hard drive and it's hot, right? Because I'm constantly using them, I'm constantly working on them, I'm constantly doing stuff with them. Now, let's just say that the job's done, the vacation's over, the check has been cashed, and now these pictures are going to go to infrequent use. Right? Infrequent use means that they work occasionally, sometimes, right, with me. So a lot of the times what I want to do is I want to be able to use those on a hard drive. More often than not, I'm telling people that the hard drive that I recommend is an SSD hard drive. So I'm going to put it here in the chat. The one that I'm using now is that one that I just put into the chat. An SSD hard drive, if you look at a regular hard drive, if you plug it in and you turn it on, there's actually a record that's spinning inside of it. That's actually a series of different records. The bad part about that record spinning is that those hard drives are great if they're straight, right? They're like this and straight, but that thing is spinning. If that thing wobbles when it spins or hits, not good, right? The average recovery cost for one of those hard drives is something like $1,500 to $3,000. SSD drives are solid state drives. It's a lot of the memory that would be very akin to the memory that you would have like on an iPhone. Right? There's nothing that moves. The cool part about that is this is an SSD drive, right? So this is 1 terabyte of information. This is all I carry with me. And the great part about that is since there's no moving parts, like a lot of the times I can just throw it. I can do all sorts of different, I gotta go back and get it. But I can grab all that stuff and throw it and it's still gonna work. There's not gonna be a problem with it. I hope. But what I wanna do is I wanna now grab all of this information and I wanna move it onto that hard drive and hopefully it's gonna work. I know it's gonna work. I'm just messing with you guys. If I had a nickel for how many times I've actually thrown that. Now, let's watch how we're gonna do that. I'm gonna grab this hard drive and I don't know what's in it.
Hey, RC, I'm just gonna interrupt you here and ask if everyone's okay to stay for another half hour. Is that okay? RC, you okay? You don't have to go and have lunch?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah, we can hang out and just do questions. I'm totally cool. I mean, if you guys are good with it, I'm okay with it.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys. Stay.
You just wind me up. I'm like, come on, man, I'm ready to go. So here you go. So take a look at this. So here's the SSD, and this will be very easy to do. All right. So there's a bunch of stuff inside of here. This is the one that I'm using for school. Now, this was the folder that I have set up with all of the images. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it into the SSD to copy it. Then I'm going to grab this guy and delete it. Now, I'm so confident that this is going to work that I'm just going to empty the trash. Done. Now, Lightroom is going to go in full freak out mode because in all of these pictures, the photo is missing. So with the photo missing, it's not going to be able to do anything. The file cannot be found. You cannot do any edits to it. However, you still can see the pictures, right? You can rank, you can sort, you can pick, you can organize, you can move them, but the photo is missing, right? It's not really missing. It's in that folder on that SSD. So I'm going to show you a quick way to do that. Right-click, go to folder and library. That's the one that's missing. See, it's on the hard drive, but it's not really on the hard drive. Right-click on this and find missing folder. Now, before we do this, I'm going to show you something. I could do this, right-click, show in Finder. It's going to tell me that it's messed up, and then I can go find that one individual image. However, I don't like doing that because if you happen to have something where you have a subfolder with, let's say, like 10 different subfolders, and you find one image inside of one subfolder, then you got to go find it on all the other subfolders as well. It's almost always better for you to find the folder, the uppermost folder, and then all of the other folders will find themselves. So it's a small difference. It's an extra step, but it's awesome. So right from here, I'm going to go to folder and library like I did before. So it's a two-step process. Right click, let's see, then find missing folder. I click on that. And once I go to the find missing folder section, let's see here real quick. Oh, I see what happened. It put the window on the opposite side on my other screen. So now inside of here, I can go to the SSD. There's the folder. And yeah, it works. Click on choose. And now that it's connected, see original photo, go to develop, everything works. Now, if I eject that folder, as soon as that's ejected and that's no longer there, the file cannot be found, the photo is missing. So I can still do rank and sort and pick and all of that stuff, but the files are now in here. It's actually shaking in there. Oh, it's not shaking, it's that. It was this. So now, once I have this all set, if I need to access it, I can rank, I can sort, I can pick, I can watch all sorts of different things with this picture. That's great. If I need access to these, then I can plug it in, and the moment that that shows up plugged in, the images are there. That's not bad. It's all done. So now these images can live with me, and what I do is I use my time machine or Windows file history if you're PC inclined. Notice here's my time machine section. Last time it backed up was 1:51 p.m. And I set up my time machine preferences, and I can say inside of here, and this is the most backwards way of looking at this, but it's a great way to kind of set this up. Inside of here, what I could do is I could say, I want to be able to back up this computer, but this options section here, anytime that you put in a removable drive, it automatically excludes. Oh, thank you for that reminder. Watch this, because this is super important. Click on this dropdown, select Open Time Machine Preferences, and inside of here, there's my time machine, 20 terabytes available, or 11.7 out of 20 terabytes available. And inside of here, there's this option section. And this option section says anytime that you plug in a removable drive, it automatically excludes it from the list. So in this case, if I single click on this and I click on the minus sign, now it's going to include that as part of the time machine backup. So now time machine is not only backing up my hard drive, my computer's hard drive, but it's also backing up my removable drive as well. And that's a good thing. Now,
Question for you, RC.
Go ahead.
Sorry. The way you use the SanDisk drive as a backup drive, could you do the same thing with the Dropbox folder or a box.com folder or iCloud?
Ish. The problem with it is it creates a whole bunch of different problems, sometimes with syncing. I'd much rather have it and own it and have it perpetually for myself than putting in a sync. But I mean, yeah, you could technically do that.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
now, everybody okay with that part? We backed it up, we moved it over, it looks really good. Now let's do the long term. Now, the long term is a little different, right? Well, actually, it's not really all that different. It's pretty much the same. The long term says, I'm going to keep all of this stuff in what's called a network attached storage device, or a NAS. So I'm going to go over here to Synology.com. Now, Synology is an organization that creates all of these different, one of their biggest problems is that they are so beep, boop, beep, boop, boop, in terms of talking about their products, that it makes it really hard for you to be able to do that. But under here, you'll see that there's a section here called View All NAS Models. Now, under this, you have all these different models for NASs. And what this is basically, let's go to, I don't know, something like this. It's basically one hard drive, two hard drives, three hard drives, four drives, just a series of hard drives inside of a box. And then this box just gets connected to your network instead of your computer. Now, I have one that's connected to my network. And inside of here, it's called Espresso. So you see, it automatically shows up here on the network. I click on that, and I have a whole bunch of stuff that I've been throwing inside of it. It's got to wake up because I haven't done anything with it in the last couple of days. There's my wiki, image vault, go to my backups, go to 2020. And now from here, I can grab this guy, drag him over. He will copy over. I'm on a wired network. Now I'm going to grab this guy, delete him from the removable drive, and same process as before. Lightroom's going to freak out. Go to the folder in library, find the missing folder. Well, I'm going to go to Espresso, and inside of Espresso, I'll go to the vault, go to the backups, go to this year, go there, choose. Now I'm accessing that, the original photo, provided that I'm in my home network, I can access that file as I need it. So that's sitting there. Now, here, I'll show you where my thing is. Let me see here. Oh, and I don't want to do this share. I want to do this share. Do my screen mirroring. Can everybody see my phone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll move this out of the way. Oh, there's my phone. Okay. So let's just go to Filmic because it makes it a lot easier. So there's my computer setup. I'm not going to be able to talk, but I'll just go over there and just show it to you. You guys can just yell, Mo.
Okay.
So there's my actual studio setup.
Wow.
We're going down this door.
Are you running Fox News from your basement?
There's my storage. And then here,
Ah, okay. It's a mighty big hard drive you have, RC.
thank you. Now,
So for us mere mortals, like, you know, a NAS is great because it is network attached, so it's quicker, and it also has redundancy. So if one drive fails, then it kind of spreads information across the otry files, right? RC, and it's a worthwhile investment, you'd say, yeah?
Yes, I think it's an absolute worthwhile investment, because what happens with this is when you take a look at that, you don't have to have everything set up immediately. Like, that looks very impressive, but what'll happen with that is a lot of the times you don't have to have everything stored in one spot there, right? Like if you look at this, I'm just going to share that screen real quick. Can you still see the Synology one there?
Yes.
So in that Synology screen, I have, what is that? That's 6 drives, right? You can get one box that does all of the features for that one thing, and only fill it with 2 drives. So you can start with 2 big drives. You don't have to have all of them filled up. I mean, if you looked at my box was only half full, right? I just upgraded to that new box, and I haven't filled all of the drives, but I can start small and build up into that. The other thing that I think that's super important about that is that when you're working with a system like that, it also has these tools, and I haven't configured this one yet, so I'm a little behind because I just upgraded to this one system. But I'll show it to you. I'll see if I can actually pull it up. Hold up a second here. Let me see here. I'm gonna go over here. As it's doing that. Yeah, I just finished upgrading this box, so I'm having, I still need to be able to connect to it. But inside of that box, what I have is you have the option to be able to put in all of these programs that can run inside of the box itself. And having that set, let me see here. Of course, it's going to kill me because I'm like, I want to show this to you. Let's see, Synology, web assistant. Let's go over here. In the meantime, while I bring this up, because you should see this. Ask me another question.
Where is your actual catalog stored? Is it in one place or many different places?
My catalog is always stored in one place. It's stored on my computer.
Okay, and that's because it's the fastest option.
Yeah, that's the fastest option for you to be able to see all of that stuff. And again, then the Windows backup makes it a lot easier for you to, Time Machine saves it, Windows backup saves it, so it makes it easier for you to be able to grab all of that stuff. So,
great. And one other question while you get that up, if you created, sometimes Lightroom does this automatic master catalog or catalog -2. If they do that, can you delete the original catalog and it won't delete the images?
yes,
Catalog is just, yeah.
Yeah, if it creates a -2 and you have a backup of those catalogs, you absolutely can just delete that other one. So that makes it easier. Now, let's see here. Okay, I got this. So let me see here. Come on, wiki, Synology. It's time to show you off. So it's on the network, but I haven't configured all of that stuff. But all of that stuff is backed up there. Now, here's the one thing. Once I have that all set up, like the Synology happens to be the home where all of that stuff is, you're going to have to then take that and you're going to have to, are you still there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. All right. Once you have that set up, you're going to have to then grab this and, oh, there you are. I knew you'd be there. Okay, so the reason that I was having that many problems was because of I was both on wireless and wired.
Okay.
So now I'm logged in. So now watch, this is my Synology in a browser. Right? If I go over here to the file station, there's my DSLR backups.
Nice.
There's my 2020. So I could access this anywhere.
Anywhere
in the world.
Okay.
Right.
Question: can you set up Synology to also back up to Dropbox or a cloud service?
That's exactly where I was going to go. So this has its own operating system, and inside of here you have a section called Control Panel, and inside of here you have the option to be able to install packages. See this thing right here called Package Center? I can install individual packages, and probably one of my favorite packages to be able to use here is a package that's specific with backup. Specifically, this one, Glacier.
Okay.
So Glacier Backup is a service that's done through Amazon, right? And the best way to be able to explain Glacier Backup is they're doing this non-immediate. Like if you go to Carbonite or Dropbox, it's immediate. You have access to it immediately. When you're using Glacier, if you make a request to them, it might take you a couple of hours. It might take a day or two. So it's super long-term storage. The good part about that is a lot of the times, like I'm going to set up that Synology with another Synology that I have offsite so that they mirror each other. By the time that I need to be able to make a cloud request from something that's messed up, that would mean that my Time Machine is messed up, this Synology is messed up, another Synology is completely messed up. Like I'd have to be sitting on a life raft somewhere. If all of these other things, like if those drives went bad, there'd have to be some sort of serious problem that I would have to make a request to that cloud backup. The cool part about the cloud backup is that the cloud backup is going to be a lot more cheaper because it's not using up as much space. It's not as persistent. So it's a better option if you're doing multiple terabytes of information. Now, Synology also has another service that they've set up now called Synology Drive, which is basically their version of the cloud backup that does pretty much the exact same thing. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I like the Glacier one because it's Amazon based and I think it's pretty good. So that's where I would go for that. So that, in a really large nutshell, is kind of how I back up a lot of the stuff that I work on.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be able to take a look at it, some of that stuff, you can see it over at this book right here, right? I'll send you a link. I had to go out and actually buy one because with all of the coronavirus stuff, they couldn't get all of the stuff to ship to me.
RC, there's one question that keeps coming up by a couple of people. If you have two working computers, like an iPad or like a Surface and your MacBook, or a desktop, laptop, and a laptop, where should you save your catalog, or how do you handle that?
You could save your catalog on a removable drive and work on it off of a removable drive, which will allow you to kind of pass things off from one to another. But it is a little bit of a problem because what's going to happen is that the file organization structure that you have for one may not necessarily be the organization structure for another. That's, I think, where Lightroom falls down a little bit. You know, it's a great organizational solution, but it does rely on a one computer system. Now, moving it onto an SSD and then moving the SSD from one spot to another is a good way to be able to do it, but you'll find that there will be some hiccups in the process, so just be aware of that.
Okay. And I don't remember if you answered this question about sometimes the Lightroom creates a second catalog with a -2 or a -2 or -3 because it's rebuilding it or what have you. What's the best solution to handle that? Do you keep the version 2 and delete the first one and just rename it, or do you try and figure out what's going on?
In a section like that, a lot of the times what I'll tend to do is I'll tend to just delete the other one. Like if you already have a backup copy of it, then you can just delete the other one and then you're fine.
Okay.
Oh, everybody turn on your cameras. I think we're done. I just want to be able to take a quick shot of everybody while you're there.
Okay.
We can keep asking questions. I'm just saying, like, if we're going to see people, I'm like, hey,
it was
Caleb.
There was one question we didn't get to, RC, which was keywording. How do you use keywording? Do you use it, and what strategies do you suggest?
A lot of the times on the keywording standpoint, I always tell people it's just like I keyword on the most general way to start, and then I kind of move myself into individual keywords. Like I'll use like symbol spray, like I'll use a keyword tool, like a sprayer tool, to individually do keywords, or I'll set up keyword sets when I'm working with them. It's one of those things where it's like I tend to do it globally and then I kind of move my way down for that. But I mean, like this entire thing, like we could have a whole conversation just on keyword sets. We can have a whole conversation just on, collections and collection sets. Like I think collections and collection sets are vital for people to understand, and not that many people talk about it.
Okay, and then maybe you can help me here. So I have, over the last couple of years.
I'm like, hey, if you are on, make sure that you put your camera on so we could see Rolando and Hussein and Nigel and Brian and Kathleen and Dimitri. I want to be able to see everybody. There's only 3 of us here. This is as close as we're going to get to human connection.
If I already have a messed up Lightroom organization system, I have a collection for a set for 2020 and 2019, and I'm kind of all over the place. What do you suggest? Where do I start? Like trying to clear things up.
Oh, wait, it says host has blocked something? Host has blocked cameras? Oh, host blocked some of the video feeds.
Yeah, everyone's being unblocked now. Just let's keep asking questions and
yeah, just keep going.
Yeah.
So, so what would be the best way for you to be able to do it if you've messed something up?
No, what I mean is like over time, I haven't really been organized. So I have one set, multiple catalogs. Where do I start? Like, what's your advice on like, you know, resetting or kind of trying to be better organized?
Okay, so if it were me, what I would do with something like that is I would create one clean catalog. Like I would set up, this is the clean catalog. Then from there, I would go back in and then start importing one catalog at a time, because you can go in and you can actually just import from one catalog into one catalog. And as you're doing the import process, it'll turn around and it'll tell you, all right, this catalog has nothing. This catalog has these connections or these collections and collection sets. What do you want to do with the collections? What do you want to do with the original images? What do you want to do with all of this other stuff? So it'll give you the ability to select how you want to work with them. So that would be something, that's how I would do it. And then I would just start with one collection at a time and one catalog at a time, and then start working one collection at a time. Like there's, because I think that the collection and the collection set is a huge thing. I'm just going to show you within this. This would be like the super nerdiest level of like, this is like level 10 nerd, which I think would be very good. Let's see here. I'm going to switch. I'm going to put myself into this one section, and then while everybody's still sharing their cameras out, I'll show you here. So if you look at my collections, right, and my collection sets here, I'm trying to look around my camera.
Make sure you all go to speaker view, guys, so you can see.
Yeah, make sure you go to speaker view so we can take a picture of this momentous occasion. But like if you look here, right, there's my Lightroom CRB, here's my personal work, right? And then there's all of the different things that I'm working on, right? And look, if I go to model shoots, right, these are all of the different people that I've worked on or I've worked with. There's Lily. Those are the individual shoots that I've done with Lily. There's the first shoot that I did with her. There's the second shoot that I did with her. There's the third shoot that I did with her. Apparently it was in Spanish. Right? There's another shoot. And a lot of the times what I'll tend to do, since you guys are still here and you're trapped, social distancing style, I'll go ahead and I'll show you another quick trick, because this is going to be something that you're going to need to do. Watch. We'll talk about it. I see some new faces. Dimitri, where is Dimitri from? You could just put it into the chat. But look, so this is what I usually do right here. So I'll create a collection set and I'll call this dummy collection set. You can see, I'm assuming you can see my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so inside of here, I'll make one called all images. And I'm not going to include the selected photos. And then I'll come over here and I'll make this one and I'll call this one picked images. Then I'll call this one rejected images. Then I'll call this one to edit. And then I'll call this one to client, or I can call it finished, whatever, right? Depending on whatever your workflow is. So now I've been asking Lightroom to fix this and I don't know why they don't fix this. Watch this. There's my dummy collection set, right? It would be awesome for you to be able to duplicate it. If I do a right click, look, duplicate collection set. That's so cool. That's great. I duplicate it. Boo! It doesn't take any of the collections that are inside of the collection set.
Oh.
It's the dumbest thing on earth. But here's an option. So I keep my dummy collection set right there, right? It's all set up. Now, let's say that I get a new job. I come over here, I create a collection set, and I call it new job. The collection set's empty, right? Single click on one of the empty ones, shift click the other ones that are empty, and hold down the Alt or Option key as you drag it, and it puts a new set. So rather than having to type them out, type them out, type them out, type them out, you just turn around and you just grab them from here, Alt drag, and then boom, you're done.
Right.
Now you can start processing the job the way that you want. So having a sample collection set, I think, makes it super easy for you to be able to do stuff.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Raz, anything that you saw that you would like?
I can bring up some questions that happened earlier. From MFC Dubai, thoughts on camera profiles on import?
A lot of the times I don't like using camera profiles during the import part of the process because I feel like there's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's rarely any instance where I feel like I need to be able to do stuff en masse. I'd rather go back and take a look at what everything looks like from a, from a vanilla point of view, and then start adding spice to individual things as I need it. Especially since the camera profiles that you have in Lightroom are not faithful. Like if you've ever noticed that when you're working on a camera profile, you'll turn around and you'll double click on something. It looks awesome, it looks awesome, it looks awesome, and then it looks terrible. Right? That has to do with the fact that the picture has an embedded JPEG inside of it, and it's reading the embedded JPEG information. And when Lightroom goes into the develop module to try to be able to do stuff, it doesn't have access to the actual secret sauce that sits inside the raw file. So there's a locked portion of that raw file. So since it doesn't have access to it, it just throws away it just throws away the JPEG and it gives you the vanilla version. I'm just laughing because I'm like in the middle of all of this stuff, and then all of a sudden I see a picture of just Tiger King for Caleb Arias, and I'm like, I haven't even seen it, and I'm like, I think that's the best thing ever. But Win Gomez, Muna, Miriam, Farah, Giola.
RC, I have another question for you from Giola, who's asking advice on.
I'm only going to answer her question if she turns on her camera. So that's it. I'm just kidding. What's up? What's the question?
Giola wants to know, how do you, what's your advice on catalog creation? How often do you create catalogs, and for what different reasons?
One catalog. Only have one catalog.
For everything?
For everything. Like, I mean, you saw it was like 380 something thousand pictures, right? So I thought
those were all selfies you took in the lockdown.
Yeah, right. That's it. It's just I explore. No, I always just keep one catalog because this is what happens. Like I always tell people, like the catalog is like a notebook, right? And if this is the record of, like, imagine I'm in my house and I have pictures in the storage, I have pictures in the game room, I have pictures in the studio, I have pictures in the bathroom. The catalog is the notebook that keeps all of that stuff. Like, where are those pictures? Oh, they're over there. Oh, what'd you do with these pictures? Oh, you did this thing. So the catalog is your notebook. This tells you where everything is. So imagine if all of a sudden you needed to be able to, if you made a duplicate notebook and you were trying to find pictures, you would have to remember that there is more than one notebook to go look in the specific notebook for the specific picture. So in that, it makes a lot more sense for you to turn around and have everything inside of one spot and work with it that way.
I think if I can just anticipate the next question from that, maybe just highlight that even though you have one catalog, things can be stored in different places, right?
Right. You can have all the pictures stored in different places. Like I have pictures on the removable drives. I have pictures on the hard drive. I have pictures on the NAS drive. There are other different types of NAS drives also, like Buffalo makes one, Drobo makes one, Synology makes one. You know, the only difference between them and Synology's really good. Drobo, it's up to you. Up to you. It's like people are like, I got a Drobo, and I'm like, good for you.
So, another question from Kathleen was, how do you optimize catalogs, especially if you're using one-to-one previews?
A lot of the times, okay, so here's the cool thing about one-to-one previews, and we can talk about this when we deal with one-to-one previews, and Lightroom has a good way of being able to do garbage management inside of it. Like if you were to go to, all right, I'm gonna share my screen one more time. I'm like, I'm looking at you guys like, oh, look, friends, people. I'll talk to you all day. So if you look under here, under catalog settings, take a look at this one section here. You see here under file handling. So catalog settings, file handling, here's your preview cache. Now, obviously this is the one for the new one, so there's not a lot of stuff here. But the most important part here is Lightroom automatically does its own garbage management by discarding one-to-one previews after a specific amount of time, should you need it. So it understands that you can't keep these giant previews all the time because it wouldn't be very beneficial for your computer to do so. So don't have to worry about it so much in terms of optimization and storage. However, the problem that you're going to run into with that is if you start using smart previews, like once you start working with smart previews, and Sadia, I'm not going to let you got to show up on camera for at least a second. I need the picture. Picture didn't happen. And I need Caleb too, because I got to send it to your dad. I know that you look like a little potato.
It's not a filter.
It's not a filter. He is
That's
a potato.
just Caleb.
That's just Caleb. Hey, what's going on? But anyway, so what happens is as you start using the smart previews are bigger than regular previews, but Lightroom doesn't have any catalog management for it. Like it doesn't dump them after a specific amount of time. So then that's where I tend to use like smart collections to be able to know it's smart previews and things like that. So there's ways around it, but it makes it a little trickier. But I wouldn't worry about one-to-ones because Lightroom does a lot of the waste management for that.
Great. Thank you, RC. That was the last question. So shall we get this screenshot of everybody?
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a post with everyone's faces in, so everyone get your best quarantine face on.
Your best quarantine face.
I'm just taking pictures.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll send you a big collage, RC.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That'd be cool. But hopefully everybody's doing all right. Hopefully you're all staying safe. Hopefully you're all doing employing social distancing and flatten this curve. Like this sucks. This absolutely positively sucks for everyone. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm glad that we're out doing this stuff. I'm glad that GPP is trying to be able to keep everybody here connected as best they can and understand, like any friend of GPP is a friend of mine. If there's something that I can do, if you guys want to chat, if you want to talk, you can always go on Facebook. I think it's like facebook.com/aboutrc. Instagram is also the same thing, @aboutrc. If you want to have another conversation, we can set up another time to talk. We can figure out.
Yeah, for sure. So can I ask everybody to put comments on the last post, the RC's post on Instagram, to tell us what kind of sessions you would like, and we will try our best to kind of bring them on for you guys. And if you have any questions as well, try and put them on there. Yeah.
I'll make a quick little collage of everyone's faces that came out today. And if you guys have any questions that were unanswered, just write them in the comments of that post. It'll be up in the next 20 odd minutes. And I will ask RC if he wouldn't mind responding to those questions. Otherwise, some of the Lightroom people at GPP can help.
Well, we can get Caleb to take his load and try and answer some of those.
Yeah.
And if Caleb is stumped, then we can ask RC. And everybody, thank you for joining us again. And RC, thank you so much for your time. And stay safe in New York. And we hope to see you again. And everybody else, stay tuned. Tomorrow we're going to be launching our print sale that is meant to support UAE-based artists. So I think we'll drop that tomorrow. We have 50 amazing prints for 350 dirhams. The proceeds go to the artists. 70% of the proceeds go to them. Some of them have kindly donated their proceeds to people who are in urgent need and based in the UAE, who've lost their jobs or who are on unpaid leave. So that will happen tomorrow. And thank you again for all of you to join us. And please let us know if you have any suggestions of things that we can do online. We'll try our best to kind of accommodate everyone. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And RC, last words from you, and then we can hang up.
You know what? Just if there's any last words, stay safe. Make sure that you use this time to, like every day, I'm looking at my kid and I'm like, we can't change our situation right now, but If you can bake something and bring it to somebody and leave it on their doorstep, great. If you can make a little card and leave it on somebody's window, great. The more that we try to be able to do our stuff and try to be connected with people, the better we'll remember how we acted in this time. And that's one thing that I think that everybody around the world should be able to do. Is just let's use this opportunity to be able to remind each other how kind we can be. So